Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory, the old world video. In today's episode, I come to you, the people, on my knees, begging for forgiveness and repentant. Because I was wrong. At the beginning of Old World, when it first landed, I thought that state troops were pretty neat. After using them extensively, I have come to the conclusion that sadly, they're kind of trash. And what I want to do in today's episode is take you through that journey that I've been on, why I have changed my mind, and maybe explore a few ways in which state troops can be improved. And so without further ado, let's grab a halberd, hold the line, and charge right into today's episode. Good news, everyone! Bolt Action 3rd edition is just around the corner. And the best way that you can prepare for this new and exciting edition of one of my favourite games of all time is by getting yourself some new Bolt Action miniatures. But where can you get these models? Well, don't worry, I've got you covered. There's an affiliate link down in the description below that'll take you straight to the Warlord Games website and you can get your World War II miniature fix right from the source. By using the affiliate link down in the description below, not only will you be getting some awesome models, but you will also be supporting the channel. A massive thank you to Warlord Games for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back into the action. Let us begin by traveling back in time to 6 months ago, when Old World was first released. In the run-up to this fantastic game gracing our tabletops, I had got myself a 3D printer, and I had furiously and with great enthusiasm printed off a lot of Empire infantry. In fact, to date, I have about 300 Empire state troops, from spearmen and halberdiers through to crossbowmen and handgunners. And as Old World started getting revealed, and when finally the rulebooks hit our shelves, I was furiously painting my army up, and I got it ready, and I had a few games with it. And in the first few games that I played with my Empire, I was loving it. My state troops looked great on the tabletop, and they were able to go toe-to-toe with some of the other units out there. I fought some night goblins with them, and they did very respectably. I was able to take on things like Chaos Marauders, and yeah, the Chaos Marauders seemed to hit like a truck, but through the superior numbers of state troops, I was able to win a few games. I even went to a couple of beginner tournaments. One was 1250 points, and my freshly painted spearmen and halberdiers actually did a really good job. I ended up going 2-1 at that tournament. And then I did another tournament at 2000 points where I took my big state troop army and I went 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. And so I thought that my state troops were nowhere near as bad as everyone was saying they were, because there were a few rumblings on the internet, a few whispered rumors that state troops were actually kind of trash and they weren't really worth it, and in general, Empire was in a bit of a bad place. But my own experience had been very different to that. But unfortunately, as time has gone on, my state troops' effectiveness has become less and less. What I realize now is at the beginning of Old World, when it first dropped, everyone was just using either what they had or what they thought was cool. And into this really sort of dynamic melting pot of people running crazy stuff and just being excited to run fancy models again for the first time in what felt like a decade. It didn't really matter what my state troops took on, because there was always some unoptimized unit in my opponent's army that they might be able to have a bit of a Barney with. Maybe some kind of like rat swarm, or some common goblins, or some marauders that only had like hand weapons and shields. You know, there's something that my state troops always were able to beat, and as a result, it felt like they were actually competent units. But like I said, as the edition has marched on, as the meta has begun to coalesce, but even in my casual games, I've started to notice that my state troops have just been doing less and less for me. And there were two specific events that really caused the scales to fall from my eyes and really forced me to face the reality of the situation. The first one was when I recently did a battle report against Skaven, who are considered one of the bottom armies, and my state troops were losing combats to clan rats. And the clan rats are armed with, like, hand weapons, and my guys were armed like spears and shields, but I couldn't beat them because they had the higher initiative, so they kept going first in combat. And even though we were paying basically the same points for our units, theirs are better than mine, and clan rats are considered awful. Like, every Skaven player out there wishes that they could take Skaven voluntolders, nudge nudge wink wink, rather than taking clan rats. And so I was like, if my state troops can't even beat clan rats in a square fight, what the hell is going on here? Now, to be fair, in that particular example, what me and my opponent both noticed is that if you have a unit of clan rats or state troops supported by some characters, then they do better. But if you just have a brick of 30 spearmen or a brick of 30 clan rats without that character support, then they don't do as well. But really, what that shows is it's not the clan rats or the state troops which are doing the heavy lifting. What it shows is it's the characters that are doing all the damage, and the state troops are just there cheering them along. But what really, really hammered this point home was when I ran my beastmen. Now, beastmen are considered one of the top armies at the moment. But the difference between a Gore, a basic beastman infantryman, and a state troop is wild. It is insane. Firstly, a Gore and a state troop cost the same amount. They're both 5 points. State troop is going to cost you either 6 or 7 points. If you have shields and spears, it's going to cost you 7 points. And if you take just halberds, it's going to cost you 6 points. A Gore is going to cost you 6 points. So either the same or cheaper than the two sort of common state troop varieties. That's because the only thing you're going to give your Gores is an extra hand weapon. Now I know you're thinking, okay, Mordian, these two units cost about the same amount, but, you know, one's got extra hand weapons, they've got extra attacks, one's got, you know, extra strength from the halberd, or might even have a better save or more attacks from those, like, spears. Like, surely that makes them equals pequals. No, because the Gores have better leadership. Not innately, but thanks to them having the Warband special rule, where they can claim extra leadership from their rank bonuses and from how many extra ranks they have, they're actually better leadership than the state troops, who are leadership 7, and they're staying at leadership 7. And then the Gores have better weapon skill, because the Gores are weapon skill 4, and state troops are only weapon skill 3. And sure, the Gores are strength 3 and the state troops are strength 3, except for they're not, because the Gores get +1 strength essentially when they charge. It's like when they charge over 3 inches. Okay? And then the Gores are tougher because they are toughness 4 versus state troops, which are only toughness 3. Ah, but Mordian, you say, the Gores won't have an armor save. This is true, but after a lot of bitterly fought games, I can now confidently say that light armor and shield is utterly wank. I would not pay for it. I don't want to pay for it. If you have a 6 up armor save, you basically don't have an armor save. If you have a 5 up armor save, you basically don't have an armor save. Basically. You might get a little bit of an armor save, but it's not a great difference. Okay. When you start getting into 4+ saves and 3+ saves, now we're cooking on gas. But a 5 armor save doesn't mean very much at all, and a 6 armor save means absolutely sod all. So the advantage is that the Gores are not paying for a save they're not going to use. They don't have an armor save. You just don't pay for shields because why would you? You don't want to pay for a 6-up save. But the Empire state troops, they kind of have to because they come with light armor. And so you're paying for a stat that really doesn't do anything. And so you might, on paper, the advantage is that the state troops come with an armor save and the Gauls don't. But the reality is neither unit is coming with an armor save, and the Gauls are getting all of these other things that just make them better. But the biggie is then the Gauls have the Primal Fury special rule, and they have the Bloodlust special rule, which means that when you roll at the beginning of the combat, you roll a leadership test. If you pass that leadership test, bear in mind you can take into advantage Warband with this thing, you get reroll 1s for free. If you pass on a double, you get Hatred, so reroll everything, and Frenzy. It's bananas. It's bonkers. And so what this, let's say you don't even get the Frenzy and Hatred thing, right? What you get here is a unit with better weapon skill, better toughness, better leadership, more attacks with reroll 1s at a better strength for either the same or cheaper. Okay, they have the same strength as Halberdiers, but they have better strength than the Spearmen, who they are also cheaper than. And I want to make something abundantly clear here. This isn't a Theory Hammer side-by-side comparison. I took my Gauls into combat. I took them to a tournament, and my basic Gauls, bear in mind, I only had 20 of them in a unit, so I didn't even need like 30 or 40 like I had been running with my state troops. My basic 20 Gaur unit was just smashing people. Tomb Guard, not a problem. Skaven Clan Rats, swept them aside without even blinking an eye. Bretonnian Knights, ain't nothing but a thing, baby. The Gauls just were better. Oh, they got better movement as well. I forgot, they're movement 5. They're better movement. And in a game where even more than 40k, movement wins games. Positioning is very, very important. Brilliant. And they got moved through cover as well. So all of these things that used to like screw up my state troops, like I can't go as fast as I want, and I can't go to that cover because I'll lose my ranks because I'm close order. The Gauls are like, nah, gonna go through that terrain, no problem, and it's not gonna affect anything to do with my ranks because I'm open order. Brilliant. And what's interesting is a lot of these opponents that I just talked about are ones that I've taken on with my empire, specifically with my state troops, and just died. When my big brick of state troops tried to take on a unit of Tomb Guard, they got totally and utterly filled in. When my Gauls took on a unit of Tomb Guard, admittedly, they had a bit of help, but so did my state troops in the same fight. I smashed them. The difference is that Gauls actually have punch, and they have ways of setting them up very naturally so they feel even punchier. You can put a character in there who will boost them up, like, and act as a force multiplier at the same time. Empire just don't really have that. You can put characters in and the characters themselves do good stuff, but they don't help the unit. So a good example of this is if I put an Empire General in my state troop unit, I get 3 extra attacks. Maybe with some sort of magical weapon, okay? But I get 3 extra attacks. If I put a Beast Lord in there, then I can give the Beast Lord Slug Skin, which then makes the entire unit -1 to hit. So not only is my Beast Lord chopping the crap out of people, like the Empire General's trying to do, but also my Beast Lord is acting as a force multiplier, so the rest of my unit is also able to get the job done. This is something that Empire just don't have for their state troops. They don't have characters that can very naturally, easily, and in guaranteed ways boost them up to the level that makes them good. Now, some people might say, but Mordian, what about adding Warrior Priests in? Great idea. I'll add my Warrior Priest in, who has a 50-50 chance of making my state troops slightly not shit. And it's a 50-50 because I'm leadership 7. And I can't use my general's leadership for it. Same thing with Beastmen. Like I said, I just put that mutation on and I'm good to go. I don't have to roll a leadership test for it. I'm just good to go. So the issue I find with state troops is that their stat line is quite inferior in comparison to their contemporaries in other armies. And they don't really have the character support that can naturally and passively boost them up to a way that they'll actually start doing something. Now, I don't want anyone getting the wrong end of the stick. I still love my state troops, and I still think they are a quintessential part of the Empire, and I still think they can be made to work. I have found a unit of 40 halberdiers, supported by a couple of characters, to be damn effective and to actually have ways of engaging the enemy in a one-on-one fight. Like, I will take that unit of 40 halberdiers into enemy core and fine, and I might even take in some special choice as well, and I might be able to punch up a little bit depending on the faction. Okay, but you can't do it on like a big scale. You might be able to get one half decent unit of state troops, but any unit of state troops that you put into your army that are unsupported and don't have basically the same amount of points that they cost, again put into the support, it's basically a waste of time. What I would like for state troops is for them to have some rules or have some improvements to their stat line where they actually feel like they can do their job. And I suppose the big question is, what is their job? I see state troops as a tar pit. I see state troops as a unit that should be able to effectively hold the line. And if they're going to win fights, they're probably going to have to do it through numbers and discipline. And at the moment, state troops can be taken in large numbers because 6 points for halberdier is actually a pretty good deal. Even when comparing it to the gore, it's a pretty good deal. But the problem is they don't have the discipline. State troops just shatter so quickly, and at the moment that you are out of range of any kind of leadership buff, you are just gone. You are done. You are finito. So what would I change? How would I adapt state troops so they can feel like state troops on the tabletop? First things first, I would just give state troops leadership 8 straight off the bat. Not increase their points cost or anything, just they should be leadership 8. These are the professional, full-time, standing soldiers of the Empire, and they should have that reflected in their leadership. These are not volunteers, these are not conscripts. These are people who have been trained and who have got that military discipline. So straight away, give them leadership 8. I would give veteran state troops leadership 9 as well. Then I would give them the option to purchase various rules that would make them better at holding the line. Good example here is, I would say 0 to 1 units per 1,000 points could buy the stubborn special rule for 1 point. You could also have 0 to 1 units per 1,000 points can buy shield wall for 1 point per model. I also think that any unit of state troops, not just veteran state troops, should be able to purchase the drilled special rule for 1 point per model, and I think that veteran state troops should have drilled included in their points cost. Finally, and I do appreciate this might be a step too far, but I do think that Empire state troops should have a special rule. Now, I would love to call this rule Hold the Line, but that's already been taken by commanders of the Empire. So I propose that we call the special rule Remember Your Training. And this special rule means that once per game, at any point, anytime the Empire player decides, Empire troops may re-roll 1 break test or flee check. Essentially, if you have already used your stubborn or you don't want to pay for stubborn, and you have a unit of Empire troops that get absolutely battered and they lose combat, then you can, once per battle, re-roll the leadership test for the break test. And that way you have almost like a pseudo BSB, like a one-shot BSB in each unit. Would it make a big difference? Maybe. Leadership's a really, really important factor. Maybe it could be toned down a little bit. I don't know. But something that shows that Empire state troops are fully trained. I mean, there's this little line in the entry that says, however, most of the time these soldiers spend their days drilling and training with various weapons to the barked instructions and grim-faced sergeants and veteran marksmen. And I just think that that should be reflected. A lot of the soldiers and troops that we encounter in the old world are not professionals. You know, orcs aren't professional. They don't train. They're just angry and unruly and rely upon innate brute strength. And they don't really orcs get better with experience, not through training. Likewise, goblins are not very well trained at all. Bretonnian men-at-arms are barely trained and equipped by their lords. A lot of Chaos Warriors, maybe they do sparring, and don't get me wrong, but it's not like disciplined regimental training. It's like brutal barbarism and that kind of stuff. So, and even dwarves, most like dwarf warriors and stuff that you come across, they're normal dwarves that are doing their part in this battle. And even the elves, they're a citizen army because of their low numbers. One of the things that I think defines the Empire as a faction is that they have a professional, full-time, standing army which spends its spare time training and drilling. This separates, this is a unique characteristic of this army. And I'm not saying other factions can't do similar things. There aren't different parts of the factions that emulate this, but I think it is one of the things that does separate the Empire and what is meant to make them good. Like in the face of enemies that just naturally outclass them through just their traits, just through what they are, the Empire does well because of discipline, because of training, and well, because of gunpowder, to be fair. But I think that the Empire at the moment, it doesn't really have any special rules. Like maybe this could be a special rule for the army rather than like a state specific one, because it kind of makes sense if like Greatswords had this. But I think that one of the things that's lacking from Empire right now is showing where that professionalism and where the extra training goes. And how, yeah, they may not have the elven reflexes or the stubbornness of dwarves or the tough hides of orcs and beastmen, but what they do, how they make up for that, and what they do have is training and discipline and a regimented mindset and attitude. And if we bring this all together, you'll notice that the changes that I have made do not increase the combat punch or power of the state troops in any way, shape or form. Firstly, I think it's important that factions do have weaknesses and that units do have weaknesses. And secondly, I don't think it's right that state troops would be like Chaos Warriors driving all before them. No. What I think state troops do is hold a line and they tar pit stuff. But right now they just don't have the tools to do that. And I'm not saying they should get these tools for free. They should definitely pay for them, but they should be there as an option for Empire players. Your basic state troop should be almost like a blank slate, like a human blank slate, but you as the player can then decide how much you want to invest in them to get them to do something. You might want to keep your state troops dirt cheap. Halberdiers, support by characters, they're just meat. Okay, fine. But if you want your state troops to actually be able to do something like hold a line and do a useful job in your army, like tar pit someone, then you could invest in the shields, the spears, and the stubborn on top of all of that. And suddenly, yeah, you're paying like 9 points per state troop, but that state troop is going to have an inbuilt stubborn that could lead to give ground as well via shield wall. And then if we have that, remember your training rule, even if they get battered the first round, there's a good chance the second round they're still going to stick around because they'll be like leadership 8 with a reroll. Just allows you for over a couple of rounds of combat to actually stick in place rather than the moment someone touches you, your guys fall apart and just flee. It doesn't feel right that professional troops just break the moment that anything of any kind just looks at them funny. Well, at least that's what I think. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Do you think that state troops are in a bad place right now, especially in comparison to some of what the other factions get? And how would you personally change them to try and make them work? If you enjoyed today's video, as always, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and Patreons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.